Hey everybody, I'm Nick Janes, and with me, as always, is Rick Stowe. I am the Director of Communications for Overland Expo, and Rick is our Associate Editor. And this, well, it's the first ever episode of Overland News. Thank you for joining us. We're really excited to do this. In this show, every couple weeks, we're going to bring you some of the latest stories from the overland industry, as well as some of our own thoughts and feelings along the way. It is going to be the video extension, so to speak, of the Compass that we run on Overland Expo. If you're not familiar with it, please check it out. We've got all the latest news from the overland industry and more there every day. Lots of good news that can also hit your inbox on Thursdays. But let's kick this right off to the first thing that's on the top of our mind. Well, it's the potential motors, that little vehicle, that little off-roader that debuted at Overland Expo East last October in Virginia. It's gone on available for pre-order. Rick, what can you tell us about this thing?
Yeah, so like you said, this thing debuted at East, and I was super excited to check it out. We'd already covered it at that point on the Compass, and it is just super cool. I think it kind of has like a retro vibe, but obviously being, you know, a full EV and the design elements, construction, it's modern at the same time. It's in an interesting spot in the market though, because it's not actually a street legal vehicle. And I think the idea of like kind of treating it as a UTV that's enclosed and you can pack a ton of gear in there, and the inside has a couple of different configurations for interior layout. It's really neat, but I would love to see something like this that was actually road ready. I'm curious to see how the public receives it. Yeah,
I mean, so the pre-order is $1,000. You know, they're not going to build that many of them. They don't exactly say how many, but when it finally comes due, the bill, $136,000, which is a pretty penny, a real pretty penny. I can't think of any other vehicles in the overland industry that even kind of quite come close, unless you start talking about maybe the Ford Lightning and the Platinum trim, and that's 110 or something like that. And obviously you get a full-size truck. That is, importantly, street legal. That's, I think, the crux, the biggest problem with this vehicle, Rick, that it's not street legal. So you still have to have your Ford F-250 to tow it to the backcountry and then do your little electric overland trips off the grid from your diesel or gas powered full-size pickup truck that you have to abandon somewhere on the side of the trail for a couple days. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it. And to your point, it would be cool, you know, if it would, you know, were street legal, but it's not. I wonder if there's not some sort of backdoor reason that this thing exists. I wonder, I heard this rumor mill at its debut that they actually developed this so that when brands that make real side-by-sides like Polaris and others are ready to go EV, when they have to go EV, that these folks have a platform that they can buy, a little skateboard, electric skateboard that they can buy. What do you think on that?
Yeah, same thing. You know, we heard some different rumors. Another that I thought was really interesting is that it was kind of proof of concept for an electric delivery vehicle. And I think the fact that the interior essentially is just a box with a ton of opportunities for how you want to mount and arrange things, it would be great for that as well. But yeah, I'm right there with you. As much as I love it, you know, it's got great visibility. There's some really cool features like molded in steps to get up to the roof rack and all that. I don't want to have that and then also have to have a truck and a trailer to get it to the trail. Yeah. And especially here in the East, a lot of our overland trips, you know, are on and off of forest roads, but there's some pavement in the middle, some back roads and some occasional highway. So that really puts us in a difficult spot for using it for overland travel, unless you're 100% on places where off-highway vehicles, UTVs, things like that are allowed.
Right. And you know what the backcountry doesn't have? Electric charging stations yet. You know, I mean, yet. But I mean, mostly even when they do come from Rivian and Jeep and others, there are not going to be that many of them. They're going to be few and far between. So you have to really, you got to take your $70,000 full-size truck to pull this to the back country where there's nowhere to charge it. I don't know. To me, it's not there. A huge proponent of electric vehicles, but this one, especially at that price point, a little concerned. Let's say that.
100% agree.
Yeah. All right, let's turn to another cool story that came across the Compass this week. It's the Mercedes-Benz Montclair G-Wagon, the Mondo G. And I know the 90s are really hot right now, Rick, but this might be like the most 90s kind of thing I've ever seen. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, as a big fan of the puffer jacket, wearing a puffy vest as we speak, all I can say is this thing is really wild. I think it's an interesting partnership, you know, Montclair being a very fashion-forward brand that makes really, really high high-end puffy coats and things like that. For Mercedes to like go into something like that with them, I thought it was pretty wild. It's like, the G-Wagen for the moon, which if you check out the video there, that's obviously the kind of thing they're trying to push, is like the G-Wagen in space with that performance art piece, I guess would be the actual term for that. When you look at the details, though, it's pretty neat. There's kind of like a patinaed paint job on there. So minus the giant zipper and the large vinyl puffy wheels, I can get behind it. Just maybe drop that down to some 33s and like a soft top, and I would totally get up behind the wheel of that.
Yeah, I love the Arctic truck look, those like, 60, 70, 100-inch tires, whatever they are. Obviously, they're not functional, but I've tried to, when I first saw this, I dug through YouTube for a minute. I was trying to like look for, I feel like there was a Puff Daddy, Biggie Smalls YouTube, a music video where they wore jackets like that. And then I was like, oh, maybe it was Missy Elliott. And I looked for that. No, hers was like a trash bag sort of like dress thing. So I was like, but to me, it just was like, oh my God, that is so like 1996. Which was really
like
funny.
Huge coat.
Yeah, but to your point, like it's a classic two-door, they put that modern kind of vintage retro look on it with the big puffiness. And it's absolutely silly, and we're not advocating anyone try to like do this or you could use it off-road or anything like that. But man, as a design concept, what a fun piece of kit that they've created there. And I've watched this video several times that we're looking at right now, and it just brings me a lot of joy. It's pretty wacky.
Yeah, it's like very like early 2000s, like sci-fi movie with the intro and everything. And born in 87, I can totally get behind that.
There you go. All right, you did a big wrap up for us, Rick, an editor's choice of all of the best overland trailers. And there was a bit of controversy, I guess, on social media. So tell us a bit about some of the highlights of the ones that you put on this list, and then what the folks wanted to see on it.
Yeah, so anytime we put it together in Editor's Choice, obviously there is just a lot of options for practically any product, and trailers is no different. So we had some great brands and models we like on there. I'm a big fan of the Taxa Cricket. I think they've got a great series. Some of the X-Grid and Off-Grid trailers and Turtleback. But of course, as soon as that went live on social, we had a ton of great comments, and actually a few of these just weren't even on my radar, so I've enjoyed diving in. Like TC Teardrops, Zion Off-Road, Ember RV. So yeah, moving forward with our next update on that, we will take a look at some of these other ones, and we always appreciate the feedback from our readers because it's a big wide market and it's always cool to kind of see the stuff that we might have missed.
Oh yeah, even when we were all putting together that list together in the editorial meeting, I know there was a handful of even models within those brands that we did select that didn't make the cut. Yeah, we could extend this thing to 20 or more list, and it still wouldn't be totally comprehensive. And that's what's so cool and so impressive about this segment. And honestly, Rick, the more time I spend around some of these, be it like Opus or Off-Grid or anybody, I go, oh my God, I'm starting to see the benefit of this, right? Because you could have a Bronco that you just daily drive and it's not that outfitted, but you hook up one of these trailers and then you got the full suite, behind you. And I think that's really cool. And importantly, we're going to be sort of exploring a little bit more of the off-road trailer ourselves this year at the show and some of our editorial coverage. I won't give anything away, but there's something coming in this space from us later this year. So it's really exciting to see. If you had a favorite, Rick, on that list, what would it be?
So actually kind of what you said, I 100% agree. Having like your daily driver and then keeping this thing just pretty much loaded, throw your food in and go. Just for my personal preference, my favorite didn't go, partially because of the name and because I think it would really suit our purposes, the Taxa Woolly Booger, which is their trailer that has a tent on the back. All their models are named after insects, and I guess that's some sort of like caterpillar or something. And yeah, it always makes me chuckle when I look at their product page and it's like Cricket, Woolly Booger, But yeah, they have a really nice one that's narrow, lightweight. You can put a tent on it because we've already got our roof nest Condor Overland, so we could drop that right on there, park it in the garage, and when we get ready to leave, hook up the hitch and go. So that's probably my personal favorite. I also think that Kimberly Campers has some really cool models that honestly, from like really big ones for a family travel all the way down to something that would be great just for a couple of folks.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, those Kimberlers are sweet. So people, please check out that story. It's on the Compass. And we also have a roundup from the Mountain West show, some of the coolest trailers we saw there on YouTube here as well. And we'll put that link below as we can. Speaking of links below, we have a link to a product that is maybe infamous, that everyone knows about, MAXTRAX Mark II. I just put up my review of MAXTRAX on the Compass this week, and we are, we're finally putting our line in the sand on the official opinion on MAXTRAX, and not surprisingly, Rick, it's positive, right? This is, as I wrote in my review that you so kindly edited, this is one of those things I've always wanted to do a review of MAXTRAX, and make sure that folks who are coming in to overlanding for the first time ever get a good understanding of why and how to use MAXTRAX. But when you're recovering, when you're in the heat of the moment, I never think about taking pictures. So it took me years, quite literally years, to gather enough images to put together a meaningful review. But not surprisingly, Rick, MAXTRAX are a slam dunk. As a girlfriend once asked me, is that just like the flair that overlanders put on their trucks? Yes and no, but man, when you need them, they are so invaluable. I was just out in Central Oregon over the weekend in deep, deep, deep snow, sometimes as much as 4 feet. And MAXTRAX saved us every single time without having to, before we pulled out the recovery straps and before we started unspooling the winches, we hit MAXTRAX every time. And man, I wouldn't leave home without them, right? Yeah. I mean, you've got a set, don't you?
Yeah. And actually, to your point, probably one of the most memorable times I ever used one wasn't on the backcountry on a trail. It was at a friend's house, summertime, had a thunderstorm. We were having a cookout, and a guy in a 4Runner was like, "Oh, I'll just park here on the bank, leave more room, for the cars in the driveway." But when he goes to leave, a little tall grass, a little wet, slippery, and they were like, "Oh gosh, we need to get a winch or something." I was like, "No, 5 seconds." Grabbed him off my truck, threw 2 underneath the front, and he was good to go. He just needed that little extra traction. So yeah, 100% agree. To your point there in the review, keep those things accessible, because if they're buried somewhere, or your truck's already in like knee-deep mud, you don't want to have to spend 10 minutes digging them out. So yeah, keep those on your roof or mounted on the side of your camper or wherever, so you can grab them when you need them. Yeah, and also, again, the orange is the original color. It's sort of the cliche color, but I know it's really. It's hard not to buy a color that matches or pops with your vehicle, like a gray or a green or black, but you're going to lose them. You're going to lose them every single time in the mud, in the dirt, even in the snow. We had a hard time finding the orange ones. So mine are black, and I now have 3. To your point.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah.
So unless you want to do MAXTRAX Corporation a big favor, get the orange ones and keep the strap on them. You'll find them a lot easier. All right, Rick, we're running out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you all had a good time and learned something. In the meantime, please keep watching the Overland Expo YouTube channel. There's a lot of great educational things on there, a lot of great community pieces as well. And check the Compass on a daily basis. Lots of really great news going there live often. We will see you again in a couple weeks for Overland Expo news. I'm Nick Janes. Thanks for watching.